Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Cove podcast. I'm Captain Todd Lempe, your regular host. This episode this week, with a sergeant from 1RAR and a WO2 from 2nd 14th Regiment on operating in the Arctic, is the last episode of 2025, but it's also my last episode as the regular host of the Cove podcast. Over the last 18 months, I've had some awesome guests come on and volunteer their time to contribute, and I've learnt so much over the last 18 months. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the content that so many people have found value with, I think, and we'll keep generating awesome content. I've had to hand over the reins to a new host based in Brisbane before I deploy on operations overseas, and the new host is super excited about delivering some awesome content when we return next year in 2026. Thank you so much for your support over and listening and the comments and the discourse that's happened because of the podcast. Thank you to all the guests for coming on and volunteering their time. It's been absolutely awesome. I'll find it hard to completely let go of the reins, so no doubt I'll try to contribute somehow over the next few months, but thank you so much. And get ready for this week's episode, operating in the Arctic and fighting in Alaska. Thank you.
Welcome to the Cove Podcast, your stop for PME on the go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Cove Podcast. I'm Captain Todd Lempe, your regular host. On today's episode, we're going to talk to fighting in the Arctic, something completely different to the potential operating environment we've been talking about, jungle warfare, fighting in Timor and the like. We're going to go straight to the Arctic and absolute freezing cold. We'll start with the first tactical action that occurred on this exercise, which was at 0001 on 23rd of January this year. Paratroopers from the 11th Airborne Division jumped from C-130s and C-17s into the Army Allen Airfield in Alaska and onto Drop Zone Buffalo. Their objective was to seize control of the airfield and establish a foothold against the elements. With temperatures below freezing, well below freezing, we'll get into that with the guests in 2 seconds, and the opposing force, their comrades from the division's 1st Infantry Brigade Combat Team. I have 2 Australians who were there when the jump happened and also throughout the entire exercise observer training. My guests today are WO2 Will McGovern from 2nd 14th Regiment and Sergeant Nathan Groen from DFSW at 1RAR. Welcome to the podcast.
G'day, Sid. Thanks, sir.
So I want to go straight to, so you get to Alaska. I don't want to talk about the selection component first because that's like, boring stuff. And I imagine you didn't have the common thread on all the episodes is you had no time and we basically found out on Christmas and stuff. Let's get to that in a moment. Let's go straight to the exercise, which is this 11th Airborne Division jumping in Alaska at their newest training centre, as I believe, and we'll get into that in 2 seconds. But what was it like when you followed up this massive force that jumped in? What was it like on the drop zone, Govs?
So on the drop zone, for me, it was a real eye-opener. I'm a country boy. I'd never seen snow before. So when you're standing next to the vehicles, looking out over the drop zone, and there's just white as far as you can see and organised chaos. So where the guys had jumped in, they'd obviously tried to bundle up their parachutes to make it easy to recover later on. But it was just a sea of white. We could see the company we were attached to, and then in every other direction, you just couldn't see anything other than just parachutes all over the ground.
And so the difference between, I suppose, was it fully covered in snow? It was at daylight at the time when obviously I just gave the timing, but by the time that you got there, was it daylight? Like what were the sort of conditions, Nath, when you got there and saw the first element on the ground?
Yeah, so being Alaska, obviously there's not much sun ever. It was a contrast to being in Australia, I guess, but the conditions were severe by all means. Like been to the jungle, been to a lot of other places, but when it's negative 20 degrees and you're trying to find the team that you're sort of OTing and you got to look around and your eyeballs are freezing, and nothing I've ever experienced before. Absolutely freezing.
Yeah, I love integrating as an OT, and you get there and then you're like, where's my insert force element? And you were telling a story just before we got on air, Govs, about not really being able to see where your element was. What was sort of how'd they guide you on when you first got to this this large element combat team?
Well, for us, we knew the grid they were at, and then when we got in there, we're just looking for. We found their Humvees next to the road because it's so different to us. When you're operating in the jungle or in our area of operations, like you can move off the road, but you can't there because like you don't know how deep the snow is. So we found the Humvees not far from the road, and the guys like trying to set up tents randomly in the wood line to try and get warm again. And then like when we linked in with them, like when we found the company commander's car, we opened the back door and then there's like everyone all huddled together trying to keep warm around a map, trying to work out where the rest of their combat team was.
Yeah, trying to work out where everyone is. Did the jump go to plan, I suppose? Like, were there any sort of technicalities with how they jumped in? Noting that you weren't there and you didn't get to jump, I'm sure you would have wanted to. Both of you would love to jump in.
We're going to go back and give it another crack.
Yeah, good. But were there any complications with the jump and all that sort of stuff, or did it largely go to plan?
I guess for like a plan of that scale is never going to go 100% as it were. But to my mind, like the dog company that we were attached to, like everything that they had going on was good, with the exception of losing one guy that was towed behind the plane that we were talking about before, ended up 8 kilometres away and had to use the RV procedure in real life, I guess. But loosely, yeah, I'd say the plan did go to plan. They got every element in. Normal casualties, what they class as normal casualties, was all fine, and yeah, they seized the airfield. Yeah,
absolutely awesome to watch, I suppose, and be part of. Let's go back though. So we're talking about Govs at 2nd 14th in Queensland in Brisbane, and Nath at 1RAR, sort of staring down the barrel of Christmas leave, no doubt. Noting you probably haven't had any for years, but like let's just say you're going for Christmas leave, right? How did you find out you were going? I suppose I'll go to Govs first, and then we'll go to Nath after that. But how did you find out you were going to Alaska? How was that proposed, or like, yeah?
So I was down at Canungra doing some resilience training with my squadron. So sort of tropical, sort of jungle-ish type terrain, I suppose, for anyone that's been to Canungra. So we're down there and we just finished doing reverse cycle. So we do all of our stuff at night time and sleep during the day. And my boss come up to me and he said, "Hey, Govs, they're asking for people to go to Alaska. Do you want to put your name in the ring?" I was like, "Sure. I've never been to Alaska before." "Yeah, all right." And he's like, "Oh, by the way, it's after Christmas, so it'll be like snowing." It's like, sweet. I've never seen snow before.
This is so good. Yeah.
So the nomination went in, and next thing I know, they're like, "Yeah, sweet. We'll take Govs," and started getting the emails and stuff from CTC. And then I get a random email from Nate going, "Hey, sir, I hear you're going as well. What do we need to start packing? What do we need to start getting ready?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Mate, I don't know. I guess we'll figure it out together."
Yeah, 2 Australians going over to OT in minus 35, sorry. Yeah, absolutely awesome. Much the same story, I suppose. Short notice.
We just finished doing an exercise Blue Dawn up in TFTA where we're just doing some urban stuff, and I want to say it was a Thursday where we're just getting ready to sort of pack everything up, and I get a random phone call from a brigade warrant officer saying, "You're going to Alaska," to which I responded, "What?" And then, yeah, it was similar to what Govs was just saying, and we just started from there and sort of went through. It was definitely a hit. I thought I was going on leave and I was looking forward to it, but something like this I don't think you can ever turn down.
No, it sounds like an absolutely awesome experience. And the scale, we're going to talk to that in 2 moments, but just the scale of just being able to observe that large for a force element, take risks and take huge tactical actions, and just on a scale that you cannot repeat. And even the training centres, I suppose we'll get into that as well, just large training areas where we can just tow artillery out and just fire it off the base type thing. It's massive, Massive. Absolutely awesome, So let's go forward. You've accepted the fact that you're going to Alaska. Probably had to look at a map. I would have to, and then start like knocking up your own packing list, I suppose. Like what's that sort of go through? And then how do we get to Alaska in the end?
Yeah, so we sort of joined up. Sir came up and we started booking all the flights ourselves, which again we stuffed a bit. There was a lot of holdovers in airports, but we were fortunate enough to speak to people that had been on the previous rotation. So the one that we did was the second iteration of it.
Awesome. Yep.
We got to speak to them, and they sort of gave us a packing list of stuff on top of the ADF's or the Army sort of issued extreme weather kit, which is not extreme by any means. So from there we sort of started going out and we're backwards and forwards, like, should I buy this? What are you going to buy, sort of thing, because it's completely unknown to either of us.
Yeah.
We're pretty much on each other's speed dial at that point. Like, hey man, I'm at the shops. Like, I'm getting like these kind of gloves. Do you reckon they'll be any good? Or
and you're like, how do I know?
It's like, I've found like head torches for like dirt cheap. Do you want me to get you one while I'm there?
Yeah. Trying to patch up a fortnight's worth of, months of preparation in a fortnight. Yeah, absolutely awesome. Yeah.
It was interesting because like everything's cold. So like the torches is a good example. You can't take batteries because batteries don't operate in the cold. So all our torches are rechargeable. Like the little things like that you often overthink or take for granted, as it were. We now need to think about.
Yeah.
Gaiters, like things that will stop your feet from getting wet. Thermals, like as many as you can buy.
Yeah.
All these little different things was insane.
Yeah. And like other little things as well, like, you know, a sleeping mat, like, you know, we're hard pressed finding a sleeping mat in Australia that's rated to that cold.
Yeah.
Most of them are rated to like 0 or
because even our
-1 or
snowfields
2.
get to like -10, like do you know what I mean? Like something like that maybe.
At their coldest,
right?
right?
The coldest, yeah.
And
how cold was it? Sorry, I made a joke about it, -35. What sort of, where did we get to in terms of the exercise?
Coldest day on the exercise was -32, but sort of for the most part it sort of fluctuated from -18 to about -25, 26 on the daily.
Absolutely freezing. Were you sick of snow in the end, having not seen it before you got to Alacta? Were you sick of snow once you left? Yeah.
From never having seen snow and being that like even anywhere near remotely that cold before to just as far as you can see, just white fields of just wet powder.
Yeah.
I was happy to see the back end of it.
You told an anecdote before we got on air about a self-recovery. I don't know if you want to sort of self-incriminate, but got a car bogged or something, but and then had to do a recovery. What was it like getting out, maybe not taking the time to think about what you should be wearing when you're doing it?
Yeah. So one night we were following along the company on their advance to clear a main objective. And we're in the middle of, we're at the back end of our packet, and there was just vehicles going everywhere. But it's like you're lucky if the road was like a lane and a half wide. And there's, vehicles just going every which way. So, we were like, all right, we'll try and get out of the way so the guys can get past. Went to pull off the side of the road and we didn't see, because you can't see where what's hard packed snow and what's soft packed snow. And of course, we found the soft pack snow. Yeah. So we were in an F-250 and we went from, driving along this, icy road to just sitting on the running boards on the side of the truck, just wheels spinning everywhere.
Yeah.
And me being me is like, all right, well, I'll jump out and see how far bogged we are. So I had my contact gloves on, so just thin gloves to stop your hands getting stuck to everything. I had my webbing on and just my smock. Jumped out of the truck to have a look in the snow. Pretty much bogged myself up to the knees in this snow. I was like, oh, we're stuffed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as you do, you try and rock the car out, right? Without thinking, I didn't put my beanie on. 10 minutes later when we were like, no, we're actually properly stuck. We're going to need some help here. That's when the headache started of like being so cold. Jump back in the truck to try and warm up because we didn't turn that thing off for the whole exercise, by the way. It just the only time it got turned off was to refuel. So it was running with the heater blaring and trying to defrost for like the next hour. That sucked.
Yeah. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, and a good lesson, learning point because you're like, can't get out even for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Because it's so harsh. Yeah.
Yeah. For what you don't think about that kind of thing here. It's like I don't think about making sure I've got like a hat or a beanie on in wintertime here. So I just jumped out of the truck to have a look, and you just freeze like so quickly. And then you got to try and defrost. So that was the hardest part. It was like trying to get warm again. Like you're getting your head warm. Like you can't just sit there and like rub your head with your gloves or anything like that. It's just like everything's just so frozen. Yeah.
I think that was the thing in the intro that I led into was that establish a foothold against the elements. It's not just the enemy fighting against you. It's now the elements in a big way. And I think that's an interesting point that you must learn heaps across the way. You talked about Combat Training Center before and being attached to them, not going with your organic units. who were you attached to? So a pair of Australians, maybe we didn't get the flights perfect and streamlined all the way to Alaska, but like learning points, we're either winning or we're learning. But we get to like Alaska, who are you attached to? So not just who you're observing, but like what call sign is sort of,
JPMRC, which is Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Center. Hopefully I got that right. They're the CTC equivalent of what we have over here. We land, as Sir was saying, we landed in Alaska, and we meet up with Captain Updahl. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. And yeah, from there it was just instantly cold. We walk outside. Sir obviously forgot his jacket because that's what warrant officers do. We get into the car and we're on our way to get a feed. Like I don't know, I can't even remember what time it was that we landed because it's dark over there all the time.
Yeah.
But we're on the way to get something to eat, and it blew my mind. There's just like homeless people on the side of the road. Like these guys must be the toughest people in the world. But we sort of JPMRC are the people that we met up with, and just the equivalent to our CTC.
Yeah, and a smooth transition straight in, and basically they were like, lads, I know exactly what you're here for. You're going straight onto this combat team, and you're going to observe in this way. Is that what it was like?
Yeah, loosely. They sort of like they asked questions of us of like where you come from and whatnot, and it worked really well. Dog Company, obviously they're like heavy weapons, which is where I'm from, and they're mounted. So even though Sir got bogged, but that's I'm just going to pick on you for the rest of it. But it worked really well. After they figured that out, they integrated straight in. We integrated straight in, and we went into our like training team, as it were.
Yeah.
And then from there, sort of cracked straight on. So
I would imagine being tasked with OTing in Alaska. I'm thinking like, I don't know anything about operating in the cold, but like you rely upon your maneuver tactics that you understand, and the breadth. I think we have a wider breadth of experience in terms of what we can offer, I suppose. Was that like, were you nervous going in, being like, what can I give them? Or were you like, all right, I'm excited, I reckon I can give them heaps in this circumstance?
I think it's sort of a bit of column A, column B. It was a great experience. But also by the same token, like, you got a fair bit, like we've got our own experiences, which are vastly different to Alaska, obviously, but you can draw some parallels with where you've been and what you've done, and then what they're doing there and then. Like, the missions and tasks they're doing are the same as what we do. It's just the operating environment that was different. So, like the tactics were still very similar. It's just a lot slower.
Yeah.
And then, between us, like we've, instructed on plenty of courses and stuff like that. So you're already looking at that style of thing, like making assessments of, the way they deliver orders, what the mission or task is. And then you start to think in your own head, like, how would I do this if it was me doing it? So then I guess for the way we do it, you put your red hat and your blue hat on, and you work out your own plan, and then you look at the way they're doing it, and it all ended up being very much the same. It's just a different environment.
So I suppose that's all the similarities, and then some little bit of like nervousness about going over there, knowing full well that the tactic stuff, that's what your bread and butter, and that's what your pride, and likely why you were selected to go over. But then you get into this environment that's unfamiliar. Was there any preparation that they did for you or set you up with? And then subsequently, how did they actually live? Is it different to just a hoochie underneath a tree and you just all spread out? Like, what's the difference when you're operating in the Arctic?
Yeah, so we did a cold weather induction course where they teach you to survive in the extreme cold. So one of the first things we did was a pack march, and of course we were the fastest from the accommodation to the area to set up the tent, which was a frozen gravel paddock. So you couldn't get the tent pegs in. So that was, you had to try and figure out. The first challenge was figuring out how to secure the pegs for the tent in the snow.
Yeah, that's right. Because we use the like you bundle the snow together and use that as like an anchor point. For like to hold it up.
That's insane.
This is after clearing a massive space for the tent to go into. All while it's like negative 20 degrees, and anything you touch without gloves on will stick to you. Like it's challenging. It was very challenging.
So the first hurdle was dig through 1/2 meter of snow to the frozen ground, and then set out your tent.
And you're still racing at this point. You're both trying to.
We were like, we're gonna stay warm one way or another. So of course you're like on the shovels digging the snow out, And then you lay out the tent, which is just a round 8 to 10 man tent. The next challenge was working out how to set this thing up with absolutely no idea what you're looking at, other than the fact that it's a round tent. So then like you lay it all out. You're trying to bash the tent pegs into the frozen ground, and if you couldn't get the pegs in, you just start packing the snow in around the pegs, so that by the time you get the tent up, the peg would frozen solid. It's like I guess the comparison is like when you set up your hoochie off the side of a vehicle and you just tie it off to a jerry can and throw it off the side.
Yeah.
Similar concept of what you're trying to achieve with
horrible.
to achieve with the peg, right?
Yeah.
And then you're lifting the tent up, and then it's like, cool. We're gonna sleep in the Arctic for the first night, and they're like, yeah, we've got a heater, but now you guys will be right. We'll show you how to set it up, but you're not using it.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I thought it was good though. Like if we're going to do something, we might as well
Do it right for the first time.
Experience the coldest night I've ever had in my life. So
let's get to that. Fast forward straight to that. Nath, can you take us to that first night where you're like trying to, obviously racing to get stuff up and stay warm, and then subsequently being told the diesel heater's probably not, we'll go without it for one night, see how you go and stuff. What was it like sleeping in the minus 30?
it was interesting. Obviously, like I've been to the snow before as a kid and sort of like camped in it, whatnot. Nothing compared to this. This was completely different. The temperature genuinely does change things. I vividly remember, like in the morning, cracking my bivvy bag open and the ice has gone everywhere, and then like your cam top's sort of like half frozen. Like Sir left a water bottle out and that's frozen. Like anything you leave outside is, well, outside in the tent is just frozen.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Wild.
Like I didn't think about it. Like I had my water bottle next to my head, trying to stay hydrated because you don't get thirsty in the cold. So it's like I'll take at least one water bottle in because I know the one in my pack's going to freeze. So I'll take one in with me to continue to drink while we're having dinner and stuff like that. And then, it was next to my bivvy bag, but then it froze overnight just from sitting on the ground next to my pack. Oh, sorry, next to my head. And it was like, I went to have a drink the next morning. It's like trying to drink an ice block.
Yeah.
It's just solid. You're like, well, I guess I'll wait till that defrosts.
Yeah. But real risk, you're talking about before pack marching, like long pack marches and stuff, and just forgetting to drink, right? It's just, is that common? Did you say that like often throughout the exercise?
Yeah, I'd say, well, it happens to us, right? Like even in hot environments, I've forgotten to drink, as it were, sort of thing. But you kind of remind yourself to because it's hot. In the Arctic, there's none of that. Like you physically, like if I could set a reminder on my watch, I sort of would to tell me to drink because you're just not drinking that much. And it's such an effort to do everything. They have their water bottles upside down in their webbing so they can still drink. But the effort of putting your contact gloves back on if you don't have them on, getting that water bottle out, everything's an effort. So you just, the mindset is, I'll be fine sort of thing, which is obviously the wrong mindset because we did see a couple of people sort of go down with dehydration through not drinking.
Do you want to talk to, I suppose, the med plan then? If that does happen, there were some times where I talked about a different risk tolerance or potentially like willingness to take some more risk, I suppose, in the American sense, and the scale and stuff as well. Heat casualty, I suppose you told an anecdote before we got on air, but like about a heat casualty and how it was managed. And I think the important points come out of that. Yeah,
they definitely, everything that they did was, encapsulated in the exercise was handled real world. And they called it real world. The only time we would ever intervene is if the training team couldn't handle it themselves, as it were. So we saw like one of the jumpers was towed behind the plane. We were mentioning it before. He landed 8 kilometers away from where he was supposed to, like banged up and whatnot. And that's all treated like exercise. There's nothing that's really out of X, if that makes sense. There's people with like, they hit the ground, they've got broken legs. They're all backloaded through the medical system, the exercising troops medical system, rather than like being pulled away, as it were, which I thought was really good. The training outcomes that they see is real life. They're training for real life rather than getting pulled away, sort of thing.
Like we had one that I remember. We were RVing with a dismounted platoon because we had the Humvees with all our equipment on there, and we rocked up and they're midway through doing a CASVAC, and it was a prior one CAS. The exercise just cracked on. We just kept doing all of like everything to do with the mission that you were on just cracked on as normal. So the med plan and your BCT was exercised as per what it would. No one else stopped. You just cracked on. So in that sense, it was like it was good to see like it actually operating real time.
And still safe, I imagine. Running the actual exercise, exactly.
Definitely still safe. This is all happening alongside like a battle going on, and exercise. Gunshot wound casualties sort of being backloaded at the same time as a real casualty getting backloaded. As Sir said, like it just doesn't stop. They keep going. They just kept going, which is really good training, to be honest. Really, really good.
So I suppose that's preparation course, and then subsequently going through the architecture for the exercise design, that being like running the casualties as if they're in the box. Everything is in the box unless it can't be, but they have a good tolerance for that sort of stuff. And you talked about running like med plans as they're written and designed to be ran. That random guy that got strung up behind the aircraft and landed 8 kilometres away, he's excellent at the RV procedure now. He's like good to go with like map and compass, finding his own way. Yeah, good.
He's like the textbook example of how to do the RV procedure.
Yeah. In the dark, no idea where you are. Yeah, just got thrown around behind an aircraft for a while. Yeah, cool. If we go forward to, I suppose, integrating into the combat team, what was it like? I suppose were they warm to you straight away? With like, did they understand what you were sort of there for and stuff? And how did you add value straight away? Because that's the thing, we're racing to add value in these teams straight away. Like, how did you get after it?
Yeah, so previous to the exercise actually starting, the combat teams are obviously in barracks, and we went out and met them all and introduced ourselves, and they're like, who are these crazy Aussies? And we're like, we don't even know what we're doing here, sort of setup. But we integrated straight into Dog Company and sort of had a chat to them. Their OC, who is I want to say, what rank was he?
Is captain.
A captain, but they have 2 different forms of captains. So he is an OC. He came straight up to us and he's like, how are we doing this? Like, what are we doing, sort of thing. He was very approachable, really nice guy. And then from there, we just sort of kicked it off. They started their orders process the next day, and every single time they did something in exercise, we would be with them. So we built that foundation of camaraderie, as it were, straight away, and then integrated pretty well.
And I suppose you talked about all the similarities, and there would be many. Like we operate so much more similar than we do different. But were there any differences with the way they did things, or anything that they did that was wildly different to what we did? Or
I think for the most part, like trying not to be too nitpicky about like the way
that's what OTs do.
Yeah. So try not to be too nitpicky about like their like employment of specific assets. Like the way the company would fight was largely the same, but then there was the little differences in their individual tactics at the platoon level. That was where we started to differ. And then one of the key takeaways that I had for them, I suppose, was like how to employ their vehicles a little bit better, because they're a mounted heavy weapons company, but they were more using the vehicles as a mode of transport, and as opposed to employing their firepower to max effect. And then also the way some of their reporting, like to trigger a handover off to one of the other platoons. So they're in a Humvee with tow missile, get into an engagement, great engagement, rip out some rockets and stuff like that. But then not then forward thinking of, hey, I've just expended 75% of my ammunition. Maybe I should, make a suggestion up to pull one of the other platoons forward that's still at 100%, roll straight into the next engagement at 25% combat effectiveness and get wiped out straight away.
Yeah.
So it was some of those little 1%ers that was, that we started to like pick up on and try and coach them through, just to value add from our experiences.
Yeah. And same in any terrain, that is the same considerations, right?
Yeah.
Same thing you can polish on. What about planning and stuff and going through that deliberate planning process? Was it different, Nath, or like largely the same?
I'd like to say largely the same. We were sort of discussing it before. It's the little things where, like I've personally done it before, where you're given a mission and you're focusing on the bigger mission rather than what your little sort of side of that mission is. So the platoons were sort of regurgitating what the OC was saying with regards to enemy picture, and and the objective as a whole, rather than sort of narrowing it down to their own little things. But I think that's because like their ability to mass firepower and what they do is generally at a company level rather than a platoon level. So I don't think it matters that as much as what it does with us. Like we operate in the smaller elements, therefore it's more important for me to do or for us to do sort of that analysis ourselves. They're massing their company for everything almost all the time. So I think you could almost put it down to an exercisism for ourselves, but for them, that's just how they operate.
Yeah, I'd probably tend to agree with Nate there. Like throughout the exercise, like we didn't really see much at like individual platoon level. It was, massing the company to reach an objective. The platoons were part of the company, like all operating on the one objective. Whereas the way we're operating, as Nate said before, like we're operating that smaller level where we're got individual platoons achieving something to support a overall company objective. They're just all doing the one thing. Yeah. So operating on a much larger scale than us.
Yeah, and that scale I think is fascinating. Like talked about before, being in the training centre and then jumping in the same training area, right? They're doing all of these things in one training area effectively. And the congestion you talked about before, can you just talk about exercises on? How did the actual exercise go in terms of congestion on the roads? How large is the training area? Like the drop zone being on the same, like it is huge.
Yeah, it's massive. We drove down, I think actually you were already down there, sir, but we drove down with the ground, call it the ground element, with dog company driving through, and like the convoy of trucks going down the highway. They still class it as INX. It's not INX, obviously there's civilian vehicles around, but they still treat it all as INX on a highway effectively. I still remember like a fuel truck like just dumping all its, I don't know if you remember that, like it jumped all its fuel, but still all handled with INX, even though it's on a public road. The scale of their sort of exercises are massive. The training area, massive. It was bounded by like creeks that they couldn't cross because they were frozen over, like things like that. But the exercise areas, like bigger than high range, massive areas.
Huge.
And then we're taking up like this tiny little portion for our company. And you're like, when we were doing because we were operating in shifts, when we're doing our shift change, like you might be driving hour and a half just to then go and marry up with the guys to swap out for the day, right? And that was just to get out there, and then they've got the hour and a half drive back. It's just like, and then Nate was saying before, like the scale of the exercise. Like, I remember we're sitting at Fort Wainwright in Alaska, and we go down to the hangars to go meet up with the guys. And there's like, the aircraft hangar that they're in, was probably 150, 200 meters long, 60, 80 meters wide. And it's just your single army stretchers, just shoulder to shoulder, full width, with like little lanes that are like 3 people wide. And as you're moving in, you're like bumping into people. There's boxes and stuff everywhere. And it's just from one end to the other is just just stretchers stacked. One, like literally shoulder to shoulder with no room in between. And that was like maybe 2 companies. That wasn't even everyone there. That didn't include anyone that did the para insertion. That was just part of the ground element. And then when the guys were driving out to go on exercise, it was like hundreds of vehicles just one after the other, just out the gate down the highway.
It's massive,
massive.
All in X. I think if we talk to, so that's stretches in a hangar, then you talk to your experience first night in the snow, like absolutely living it up and freezing, cracking your bivvy bag open. If you fast forward to maybe not for dog company because they were mounted, but what sort of, I joked before about a hoochie, like setting up your hoochie and stuff. How do they live in this stuff? Like how was it? Did you obviously you got to see them sleep overnight?
Yep.
Overnight? It's not even overnight, is it?
Overnight.
It's all night. So how do they sleep? Like how do they live? What were the observations you made about living in Alaska?
Yeah, so the CWIC, which is the course that we went through before we could go out, that we replicated what they were doing, as it were, sleeping in the tents with the heaters. They do the exact same thing. They'll set up their Accio for their sections, 10-man section sort of thing. They'll sleep in them when it's like overnight, or when they can sleep. Some of them will sleep in the cars because the cars have heaters. They generally don't turn any vehicles off because with it's so cold, it might not start. So they don't risk that. They just get refueled all the time. And because it's America, they can resupply pretty quickly.
Yep.
Definitely one of the better. Well, they're probably the best nation at resupply, to be honest. Anytime that they were requesting anything to get brought forward, like an Accio, which is the tents that they sleep in, one of those goes down, they just get one brought forward straight away.
Yeah.
Their conditions for sleeping were pretty good. They leave a lot of stuff outside. They only bring inside the tent the stuff that they sort of need to sleep. Everything else just remains outside. But they can do it's called cold bagging, I think it's called, where they just like dig a shell scrape, as it were.
In the snow.
In the snow, and then they'll just sleep in that. They're crazy. I don't know how they do that. I would never do that. But they're just out in the snow in a shell scrape. I don't know how effective it would be against a 155, but they're just out there.
Yeah. Braving the elements. Yeah.
Braving the elements.
Yeah. I suppose we talked about the trying to live in the field and the jokes about the hoochie, and like obviously they sleep in section tents. Everything stays outside because there's just different considerations. Govs, at the top of the episode, you talked about a resilience exercise at Canungra and then directly contrasting that experience to Alaska. But I want to drill down on the resilience component. What were your observations of individual soldiers? Like, were they thriving, surviving? Like, how did it? Like, what were you they're passing you on foot and on skis? I don't know what it was. What sort of observations did you make about the soldiers?
So I think from like doing our resilience activity where you're just teaching guys to just embrace the suck. Sometimes there's all shit times come to an end, right? And then you doing that in October, November in Canungra, to then going to Alaska in January where it's like literally polar opposite. Where we'd just been 35 degrees in Queensland, 80% humidity, to now at minus 25. And we're already in the hurt locker. Like as soon as we wake up in the morning and you step outside, we're in that just survive mode, right? And then you go out on your shift change, you go out into the training area, and you're passing these guys just like, and their snowshoes, packs on, just embracing the suck. Some of them, and they're just like defeated humans, just one foot in front of the other, just scooting through to their next objective to set up. And then you got these other guys there that are just loving it, smiles everywhere.
Crazy.
Just absolutely loving the snow and just not caring because they're just like, you know what? I've embraced the fact that I'm cold, I'm hungry, and I'm miserable, but this is great. And they've got like icicles just like hanging off their face, like as long as a beard, and it's just frozen snot. And it's like those dudes were some of the happiest dudes, cracking jokes, having you stop, you say g'day. When we're paused and we're like talking to like some of the like platoon sergeants or their CSMs or whatever, just getting a feel for what's going on because it's so different to the way we operate, and then their guys are just having a laugh, having a cigarette, enjoying it, and then you got the other guys that are just in survive mode, just it's one of them ones where it's like, this is a real world resilience activity, like, because if you don't embrace it, then you're not going to survive the cold.
Just hate it the whole time. But you talk about in the box, right? Resilience is in the box.
The resilience is definitely in the box. One point I think is good though is like those blokes that are like, call it not having a good time, as soon as the firefight starts, the grins on their faces is insane. Like, credit to them. Like, it might suck, but I wouldn't say we saw anyone quit as it was. They just they consistently keep going. Like, I think their love for America and their patriotism is next to nothing. Like, they'll do anything just to sort of keep going.
I think the 11th Div or 11th Division Airborne Division motto is like 1 foot in the snow, here we go, or something like that. They are amazing stuff. Like to be able to thrive and accept that is what, like, your job. That is absolutely awesome. And then get into contact and absolutely bang it in. Like,
and just
awesome.
massive grins, and like you just see like the M240 or the Mag 58 just humming away, and you're just like, this is awesome. Like,
so cool.
They're having so much. Maybe because it's warming them up as they should.
That's right. Or the light. There's some light or something. So obviously every exercise we come back to scale A, like Coltana, you're going to be at Coltana, you come back to Camp Baxter. That it looks like Chernobyl sort of thing, that little prison down in Coltana. But so everyone comes back to sort of the scale A, the exercise ends and you come back to, I imagine, not Camp Baxter equivalent, you come back to the base. How, like, what's the refit like when you get back, and what's the base like?
Well, the base literally had a Holiday Inn on it, and a bowling alley, ski fields. I could live there quite comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, like they had for anyone that's been to Pucka, like they've got the housing, like the Married Patch at Pucka. They've got that on the side of the base as well. And then, as Nate said, they've got a bowling alley, they've got a holiday resort, they've got ski fields like right next to the airstrip, and then, you go to the service station and it's like got it's basically like Frontline.
Yeah, it's a mini supermarket sort of.
Yeah, beer included and fast food at the service station.
Yeah.
And then if that wasn't good enough, like you go down to the PX, which is like the nearest thing that we've got is like, like the little Valhalla Tactical or whatever out in the front of Laverack or, places like that. And they've got, that's what we would classify as like a sort of like a PX, right? No, they've got that as one little shop in this supermarket, but the PX as it is like a Kmart, and that's on base. Like, everything from sunglasses, boots, like camping equipment, guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, pretty much anything you can get from anywhere, you can get in this one PX.
Yeah.
And it's all dirt cheap. It's like tax free.
What was that chicken shop they had?
They had like
what was it called? It was the best chicken I've ever had.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And after that exercise, I assume you needed some.
Definitely.
Yeah. We became regulars there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. Yeah, good.
We burned all them calories. You had to refit them somehow.
Yeah. Sitting in the car.
All right, so I suppose that's the exercise in general. We've got moving back to the massive barracks and like all the amenities that they have. Trying to keep people, I suppose, in that training area, and it just because it is. So I remember going to National Training Center like Fort Irwin, and it's 45 minutes from this tiny little town called Barstow in California. 45 minutes though to the center of the base. Like you are a fair way from civilization, right? So the isolation, I suppose, but also like what they can provide on base is just unfathomable for us, despite the Pucka marriage patch. I get your point. So if we let's go zoom out again, key things that you learnt. So you've had a bit of time to reflect since you come back from that trip. What sort of things were the big takeaways, and what do you want to push across to be like, this is what I learned? And I think it's incredibly important for us to embrace. I'll go with you, Nath, straight away.
Yeah, I guess the biggest takeaway that I had was that like exercisisms, for us, we take them pretty seriously, is probably not the right word, but seriously. Like casualties that they receive whilst they're exercising are all backloaded through the exercising unit unless they can't, they physically can't handle it. Their appetite to accept risk is far greater than what we have. And I think that provides a better training outcome. Like people with broken legs aren't necessarily backloaded through like the civilian route or the out of X route. It's all done through the exercising troops, along with like in-ex casualties that have gunshot wounds or whatever like that. It was great to see realistic training as a whole, I think.
And I think the consequences lead, especially with the guy that landed 8 kilometres away from where he was supposed to, and he went through the RV procedure. I imagine that guy would he really understands why he listens in the RV procedure and like goes through the process of like basic nav comms to raise the call sign and find out what their grid is and all that sort of stuff. Like it makes it real, and therefore like I suppose forces people to exercise those sorts of things, actions on and the like.
Yeah, definitely. The other side of it is like you're held accountable as well. Like you can't there's no way to bullshit your way through that sort of stuff. Like you are out there and you know that you have to find your platoon. There's no other option. Otherwise you freeze to death potentially. No one actually died though, but like just the realism in their exercising and the way that they hold themselves like accountable for everything, regardless of rank or anything like that, is just next level.
Yeah. That's absolutely awesome. I suppose, Govs, your one point that you took away from the entire experience, if there was one, what would it be?
So mine is like, it doesn't matter the operating environment that we're in, you've still got the same needs. Food, water, shelter, to be able to survive and thrive. It's just the hierarchy of need then changes, with whatever environment you're in. You're operating in the jungle, you need shelter from the rain and the elements that way. You're in the Arctic, you need, shelter from the snow. And you operate in the desert, you need shelter from the sun, right? But your needs are still the same. It's just whatever, and you go through the same process of treating them all the same, and your risk mitigation is the same. It's just you do things slightly opposite. You still need all the same things, but you're just essentially doing the opposite for wherever you're operating.
Yeah. So to you, directly contrast Canungra, for example, like the same sort of needs you needed. So I still need a heap of water because we're exercising a lot. I'm trying to get out of the sun, so it's not beating down on me. To directly contrast to Alaska, you're probably thinking, oh, this is going to be like way different and stuff, but it was largely the same as well.
That's exactly right. Everything is largely the same. It's just
getting away from something else. Right? Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
The hierarchy of needs are the same. It's just it changes depending on your operating environment.
Yeah. And embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck. Yeah.
One Officer Will McGovern and Sergeant Nathan Groen, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely awesome. That's fighting in the Arctic, 11th Airborne Division, jumping into Drop Zone Buffalo, and your time as observer trainers in that exercise. Thanks so much for your time. It's been awesome.
Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, sir.
Thanks very much for having us. It was a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Cove Podcast. Explore our channel for more great audio PME content. Also, visit us at cove.army.gov.au for hundreds of additional resources. The Cove, the learning home of the Australian profession of arms.